You've probably heard it 1,000 times. You need a high income to build real wealth. The successful entrepreneurs, the six-figure earners, the corporate executives, they're the ones who get rich, right? But what if I told you that's not actually how wealth works? The Stoics understood something profound about money that modern culture has almost completely forgotten. They knew that wealth wasn't about how much you earned. It was about how much you kept. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in Rome, spent his life understanding that external circumstances, including income, matter far less than internal discipline. And that's the secret that changes everything. Building wealth without a high income isn't just possible, it's actually one of the most reliable paths to financial independence. Let me show you why. The first principle is incredibly simple. Spend less than you earn. This sounds obvious, but it's here almost everyone fails. If you make $50,000 a year and spend $49,000, you're building wealth. If you make $200,000 a year and spend $210,000, you're going broke. The Stoics called this living within your means, and it's the foundation of everything. Seneca was one of the richest men of his time, yet he deliberately chose to live like a poor man regularly. He'd eat simple bread, drink plain water, and sleep on a hard bed. He did this not to punish himself, but to prove to himself that he didn't need luxury to be happy. This practice gave him freedom. If you can live on 30% of your income, your 30% becomes incredibly powerful. It becomes the seed that grows into wealth. The second principle is to understand that every dollar you don't spend is an asset working for you. Most people think wealth comes from a big paycheck, but the math tells a different story. Let's say you earn $60,000 a year after taxes. If you spend $40,000 and save $20,000, you're saving 33% of your income. After 5 years, you have $100,000. After 10 years, you have $200,000. That's not luck. That's not a high income. That's discipline compounding. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about controlling what's within your power. You can't always control your salary, but you absolutely control your spending. The third principle is this: automate your savings so that you never see the money to spend it. When your paycheck arrives, immediately transfer your target savings amount into a separate account. Make it invisible. The money you can't see, you can't spend. This isn't deprivation, it's freedom. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from what happens to us, but from our judgments about what happens. When you automate savings, you remove the judgment. There's no daily battle with temptation. The money is simply gone before you have a chance to spend it. The fourth principle involves what the Stoics called understanding your true needs versus your desires. Modern marketing wants you to believe that happiness comes from consumption. The Stoics knew better. They understood that beyond shelter, food, and basic security, most additional spending doesn't increase happiness. It increases attachment. When you attach yourself to luxury, you become dependent on it. You become enslaved by your own desires. Instead, the Stoic approach is to identify what you truly need and get excellent quality in those categories, then ignore everything else. Maybe you invest in a really good bed because you spend 8 hours there. Maybe you invest in excellent shoes because you walk everywhere. But the expensive car, the designer watch, the status symbols, these are chains disguised as achievements. The fifth principle is that wealth should be boring. The most boring financial life is actually the most powerful one. Put your money in low-cost index funds. Don't try to beat the market. Don't chase hot stocks. Don't listen to financial advice from people trying to sell you something. The Stoics understood that complicated things are fragile. Simple things are robust. A portfolio of boring, diversified index funds requires almost no maintenance, very low fees, and historically outperforms 90% of active investors. The beauty of boredom is that it works while you sleep. You don't need a high income if you're not giving it away to fees and poor decisions. The sixth principle is to see obstacles as opportunities. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said that the obstacle is the way, not in some mystical sense, but literally. When you earn less money, you're forced to become resourceful. You learn to cook instead of ordering out. You learn to fix things instead of replacing them. You learn which expenses genuinely matter and which ones don't. Someone earning $100,000 who spends $99,000 learns nothing. Someone earning $40,000 who saves $15,000 learns discipline. That discipline becomes their superpower. They'll keep it even when their income increases, which means their wealth compounds exponentially. The seventh principle is that time is more valuable than money. The Stoics obsessed over time. because they understood that it's the only truly non-renewable resource. When you focus on building wealth without a high income, you're often choosing to keep your life simple and your job less demanding. This might mean working 40 hours instead of 60. It might mean a less stressful position, and that time becomes invaluable. You have time to think, to read, to build relationships, to work on skills. Money only converts to more money, but time converts to skills, relationships, health, and wisdom. The eighth principle is about the power of small, consistent actions. You don't need to make a dramatic change all at once. The Stoics believed in the virtue of steady progress. If you save just $20 a week, that's $1,000 a year. After 10 years, that's $10,000 before any interest. After 20 years, it's $20,000. Add in even modest investment returns, and you're looking at significant wealth from tiny daily decisions. The difference between someone who saves $20 a week and someone who doesn't isn't their income, it's their choices. And those choices are completely within your power. The ninth principle is understanding that comparison is the thief of contentment. The Stoics knew that social comparison is the origin of most financial mistakes. Your neighbor buys a new car, so you feel pressured to do the same. Your friend takes an expensive vacation, so you book one you can't afford. Your colleague gets a promotion, so you feel behind. But here's the truth. Their financial situation isn't your financial situation. Their goals aren't your goals. Your path to wealth is individual. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor of Rome, constantly reminded himself that external validation means nothing. Wealth built on trying to impress others is wealth built on a lie. The 10th principle is that building wealth is actually building freedom. This is the ultimate Stoic insight. Money itself means nothing, but money that you've earned and kept gives you options. It gives you the freedom to say no to things you don't want. It gives you the freedom to take risks. It gives you the freedom to leave situations that harm you. It gives you the freedom to help others. It gives you time. It gives you choices. And choices are what freedom actually means.